Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining me today. As always, a lightning fast, jam-packed show, whatever term you want to use here. I always seem to have a lot of things that I want to get to quickly as we get started here on, what is it? Today is like Tuesday. I'm losing track of the days already, man. You know, I got stuff we're going to get to. I've got comments from Coach Shane Beamer. He says that Georgia may be the best Georgia team ever. We'll get into that. We'll also get into comments from Coach Dabo Swinney about Georgia Tech. And yeah, we've got all kind of stuff that we're going to get into today. But I tell you what, why don't we start with Coach Beamer as we look at our stuff here, as my stuff is being silly today. But we can look at what we've got with our coaches here. And I thought that I had all this preloaded, but give me a moment and we will have it up here for you. The big thing with this, though, is that Coach Dabo Swinney today talked a lot about Georgia Tech and about the matchup with the Yellow Jackets this weekend. So we'll get into that momentarily. I've got some comments here from Coach Shane Beamer, but I got to start with a couple of other little things here today. As folks are already piling in online, did you see all that Texas win on Saturday? I tell you what, man, Texas is taking a beating. We're going to get into also who's going to replace, because right after we got off the air yesterday, there was a firing of a coach. The first Power 5 coach is gone with Clay Helton leaving Southern Cal. So who's going to take that job? We'll get into that this afternoon. Also, Joel Klatt released the, quote, 5 best college football jobs. When you think the best college football job, what do you think? Yeah, we'll tell you what his top 5 were, in addition to several other little things today. But, I got to start with this today because it was kind of hit me in the face a little bit. Comic Norm Macdonald died today from Saturday Night Live fame. I don't normally talk pop culture stuff on here, but growing up, Norm Macdonald was the man for me. He got in trouble for basically over commenting on O.J. Simpson because he was out during the O.J. Simpson murder trial. These comments were from Norm Macdonald about O.J. Simpson. Pretty crazy stuff here.
Well, it is finally official. Murder is legal in the state of California. A down-and-out O.J. Simpson, depressed that all of his money-making ideas have failed, has decided to go back to doing what he does best, killing people.
He went over the top a little bit there with a lot of his stuff, but Norm Macdonald passing away. And it's so weird because, growing up, that was one of my, everybody talks about Chevy Chase and Saturday Night Live and all that. But Norm Macdonald passing away was a big, big deal for me today because that's one of the guys I grew up watching Saturday Night Live with. So anyway, if you want to comment on that today, we can get into that as well. But talking about what did he pass away from? That's what Go Bucks asked for online. And it was cancer. He had like a 9-year battle with cancer. You battle cancer that long, man, that's crazy. But Norm Macdonald was a very, very, very funny guy. And him passing away, just sad. Yeah, Dirty Work was awesome. Yeah, that was a very interesting movie to say the least. But Norm Macdonald passing away today. As we look ahead to the games this week, you've got so many. There's a couple of great matchups within the SEC with Penn State playing at Auburn, and then of course the big matchup with Florida welcoming in Alabama. Lots of folks will be watching that one for sure. Anyway, let's get some comments from Coach Shane Beamer today as he talked a little bit about this Georgia team. And man, hate to use the wrestling term here, but that's the only thing I can use. He thinks this Georgia team is pretty special.
He probably does have the most talented football team in the history of Georgia football. And that's not an embellishment and coach speak and all of that. When you look at from top to bottom, the 11 that start on offense, the 11 that start on defense, all of their special teams units, the depth they have, the size, the physicality, the speed they have. I hadn't seen them at all because we played obviously the same time they did when we played Eastern Illinois. So I didn't see their game on TV against Clemson. They were playing the same time I think that we were last week against East Carolina. So the first time that I was able to dive into watching them was Sunday once we got started on our game week prep. And wow, there is a reason they were picked to win the SEC East, and the talent just jumps off the tape at you. Obviously, they've had some great players in the past. I've coached against a lot of them, Matthew Stafford and Noshawn Marino and AJ Green and those teams. I was a part of a really talented team that played for the national championship with Roquan Smith and Nick Chubb and Sony Michel and those guys. But when you just look at their starters on all three phases, but then you just look at the backups, I don't know of a more talented team ever to play at Georgia. When you look at that, I mean, I had read over the summer that the defensive back, the secondary was an area of concern, and all I see are those guys just playing everybody in man coverage, and nobody can complete a pass. I watched their defense. I think they forced 18 punts already this season in 2 games, which, if my math is correct, that's going to put them on pace for over 100, which is an ungodly amount of defensive stops. Like usually at the end of the season, a defense may force 70 or some punts. They forced an average of 9 the last 2 games. I'm sitting there watching tape all day yesterday, got in at 5:30 in the morning and was all day watching tape like the rest of our coaches, and thought I had thought I had a good feel for the personnel. Then here comes another guy at the end of the game against UAB that's not even listed on their 2 deep, that's making plays that would start a lot of places in the SEC. There's a play where Jordan Davis, their unbelievable defensive lineman against UAB, where the UAB quarterback runs Jordan Davis for Georgia is outside the hash into the UAB sideline, and the quarterback for UAB starts running towards the Georgia sideline, and the defensive lineman, Davis, all 340 pounds of him, runs the quarterback down and makes the tackle on Georgia's sideline. And it's one of the most amazing individual efforts and plays I've ever seen. So they are really, really good, and will be a big challenge for us. But our guys are certainly excited to go play. We've had a couple of great days of practice, and looking forward to the challenge of going in there against such a talented and well-coached team. So the hype for them is real, and we're excited to go play.
There you go. Some more notes from Shane Beamer's press conference this afternoon. He said that for Doty to play, he has to earn the start, has to have a good week of practice, be comfortable under center, and be rust-free. He said that he continues to get better every day. Quote, "We fully expect him and the rest of our guys to be ready to go Saturday, except for Ricky Sandage, who continues to work his way back from a lower body injury." I don't want to be the guy that's going to tell you that South Carolina has this great chance to win this game this weekend, because they don't. Now, if you listen to other shows that are around the Midlands and everything else, oh, well, remember what happened a couple of years ago. Yeah, there's a little bit of a difference between this team and the team that was in there a couple of years ago. I think people seem to forget that. First of all, you knew who your starting quarterback was going to be. You also had, in addition to that, Israel Mukwamu was on that team. And Jake Fromm is not going to be the quarterback on Saturday and throw a couple of silly interceptions. The Georgia kicker is different. There's a lot of things that are completely different from this matchup. Now, under that logic, though, I mean, you have to play the games. Otherwise, why bother? But the big thing is that I think for the South Carolina fan base, just go down there and not look embarrassed. I think that's kind of the big thing with this matchup. You're a 32-point underdog. That is a lot of points in a conference game. Brandon says, did you know South Carolina is number 4 in total defense after 2 games? Yes, sir. I get that. But the 2 offenses that they played against were not very good. Let's try to be reasonable here and just put out what's there. If you don't believe in how great that Georgia team is, Shane Beamer just told you it's the best Georgia team ever in his mind. They've been playing a lot of football down at Georgia. We goof on Georgia a little bit on the program, have some back and forth, but in reality, that's a hell of a football team. Okay? Working on getting on the program on Thursday, Mr. Chip Towers from the AJC to join us to break down the matchup there with the Bulldogs. Let's go out to the phones. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, if you want to discuss South Carolina's chances or, how good they are relative to other college football teams, I think you just go straight to looking at the line of this game. And Georgia's favored by 32 points. You only have to go back 7 days when Georgia was playing the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and was only favored by 23. That's all you need to know. Thanks.
All right. Well, appreciate your call. And of course, you're always welcome to join us at 803-978-1832. I think there's a lot of, when it comes to making that line, and once again, I'm not somebody that picks spreads in Las Vegas, but that Georgia defensive line is really, really good. And you can talk about that, but we don't really know who the starter is going to be at quarterback for South Carolina. Just saying. That's something that may hinder the line a little bit there. Not that starting Luke Doty is going to make the South Carolina offense better, in my opinion. Zeb Nolan's a heck of a quarterback. I mean, you have to be respectful of what he's done, just based on the fact that a couple of wasn't. And even Beamer said this too, like, a month ago, he was sitting in coaches' meetings. So there's that. But we'll get into more of that game in just a moment. Let's have some comments here from Coach Dabo Swinney. His team takes on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets this weekend. Some comments from Dabo Swinney as they get set for their matchup there with the Flying Bees.
Excited about ACC play kicking off. We got 7 straight conference games, and the next goal for us is very simple. It's win the division. So that starts this week. That's what's in front of us, and we know that we got a lot of improving to do to be the type of team we want to be overall and in this league. Our next challenge is Georgia Tech, and they are a much improved team in all areas. They had a kind of a crazy opener with Northern Illinois, who's a good team, a good program. And I think that's the danger of openers when you don't know a lot about the teams. And they came out there and I think they caught them off guard from a schematic standpoint with some of their unbalanced sets and things that really hurt them. It was a hard fought type. They went for 2 to win it. And it was a heartbreaker for them. And then but they bounced back. I think that's a sign of their maturity as well and their culture growing. They bounced back this past week and played really, really well. So I think they're a much, much improved team. You can see that belief growing in what they do. They're committed and believe in their philosophy and what they do. I think that's important. It's going to start with their offense. I think that they've got offensively 7 guys back that have started 5+ games for them, so they're more experienced. Got 3 starters back up front, including a 4th guy coming in from Vanderbilt at left tackle. So experienced group up front. The back is special. He is a special player. He can do it all. He's going to touch it every which way they can get it to him. You know, he'll have 20 plus touches when the game is over. There's no doubt about that. You know, he's a dynamic player. Their receivers are physical. You can tell they take a lot of pride in being physical. They got behind us a couple times last year and made some big plays. Quarterback wise, you know, they obviously got two guys, and I don't know if Sims is back or not, but expect both of them to play. And they're dynamic guys. They both can run the offense. But I thought Yates did a heck of a job last week. Very consistent. He's a very savvy guy. Really understands what they're doing. And you know, Sims is they're both good runners. Sims is probably the more dangerous of the two when it comes to running the football. But, you know, they'll get them on the edge. They'll sprint, and you got all the throwbacks and a lot of screen game, a lot of different formations to adjust to. And again, just, you know, trying to get you in space. So good challenge for our defense with this bunch for sure. And then defensively, they got 10 guys that have started 5+ games back. So just the whole team is so much more experienced. And as a result of that, confidence, maturity, leadership, a lot of the same things y'all hear me say about our guys, you know, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That's what you see with them.
Or if you want to talk about what Shane Beamer said earlier, a couple other notes from Coach Swinney's press conference. Nolan Turner should be back on Saturday. Boost there for the Tiger secondary. Also, he says he doesn't know if Sims is going to play or not, and said, if y'all got any intel, go ahead and let me know. Thanks, I'll take it. You know, I think that I don't think it really matters much with Georgia Tech. They're trying to basically, Jeff Collins is rebuilding from the start. And, you know, Coach Swinney said a lot of good things about the program there, but in reality, it shouldn't be that close of a matchup on Saturday. But once again, you got to play the games. Simple as that. All right, if you want to respond to any of that, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. A couple of other stories that are out there we're going to get to when we come back. And they include the Naval Academy has told one of their coaches, had to show him the door. I'll explain to you why, make you think about some stuff in a moment. COVID-19 strikes again with a program. We'll talk about that. And what college football job do you think is the best job? Joel Klatt put his out there. We'll tell you what those jobs are when we come back here on The Rundown, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Appreciate you folks watching on the stream. You can find that by going to the Facebook page at foxsportsradio1400.com. More of The Rundown when we come back right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. That's great. I don't know, but you know what? That's a tough job. That's a tough job out there because they want you to be great, but no one cares. Yeah, I think for South Carolina to get 6 wins, they're going to have to beat Troy is definitely there. Vanderbilt is there. That'll put you at 4. Mizzou. Yeah, I mean, as far as the easiest wins, I would have to say that. Going to Tennessee is looking tougher and tougher because they look like they can play some offense up there. So that might be a tough out there for the Gamecocks, but the Missouri game on the road too, that's another problem. You got both of those games on the road. It's not far-fetched to think South Carolina could end up with just 4 wins. I think I picked them to do 5, but I don't think it's that far-fetched for them to do 4 wins. I don't think that's that far out there, to be honest. No, I don't think they're beating Kentucky. I think Kentucky is just too strong defensively, and they do have a quarterback now that might be able to throw the ball a little bit. We don't really know that much about him, though, so we'll see. I don't think that Kentucky is dropping that game to South Carolina. Kentucky, the way their schedule shakes out, you know, when you, and we'll get into this more next week. Brent wants to know who I think is going to score a TD on Clemson first. Brent Venables has those guys dialed in. I was going to say Boston College, but they lost Dracovic. So, Brandon, that doesn't have anything to do with anything, brother. You could be at home and still lose a game. You think a home game is gonna win that for South Carolina? That's tough, brother. I think the Clemson defense is really good. I think the offense, though, has some issues there, Brent. They got to figure some stuff out. Get me a shot of whiskey later, man. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Some stuff from some folks online. Who do I think would win between Texas and South Carolina? If Texas played like they did at Arkansas, Gamecocks might have a chance. Alejandro asked, does Oregon have a shot at the playoffs? Yeah, they do. And here's the thing with Oregon. I think Oregon can drop a game. They could drop a regular season game as long as they win the Pac-12 championship. I think they can look at their schedule and say, you know what? We went across the country and beat Ohio State. And that is a heck of a win to have there on that schedule. Sort of like if Clemson would have won their matchup with Georgia, that would have been a stamp win for the Tigers. They could have probably afforded to drop a game. That was kind of the statement win that Oregon needed, and the Pac-12 needed too, by the way. They've been kind of the surprise conference this year, playing a little bit, playing some pretty good football out there. 803-978-1832. Go Bucks says Ohio State drops 2 more. I think they got too much talent. I haven't really looked and followed the Ohio State schedule as to make like this crazy pick for them, but I don't think it's that far off, to be honest with you. I think they're going to be fine. All right, so the best 5 jobs. Let's look at this really quick here. Joel Klatt from Fox put out his top 5 jobs. Number 5 on the list is the Georgia Bulldogs. Number 4 is Ohio State. Now, these are the best college football jobs. Number 4 is Ohio State. Number 3 is Southern Cal. Number 2 is Alabama. And number 1 is Texas. Here's my thing with these numbers. I think that if you're such a great job, especially with Texas at number 1, they've had a whole lot of failure there for a while now. Yeah, you can have all the money in the world. You can have all the money in the world. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're a great job. Does the administration want to help you there? Yeah. But in theory, the things that are good about Texas are the money, the fact that they will be in the SEC, so they'll have more money. I'm just saying, it's interesting. He has Texas at number 1. Leroy online has a very good point. It's the best jobs if you're winning. Yeah, I imagine so. Number 2 is Alabama. You know, I think that they put everything, the entire state is football there. So with that, yeah, I mean, I can buy Alabama being in the top 5. At number 3 is Southern Cal. I think Southern Cal is a tough job. I really do. You know, the last really great team there was was when Pete Carroll was coaching, right? Eric's laughing about Texas being the number. let's make sure we put this out there because people are going to run and say that I wrote this list. No, I did not write this list. This is from Joel Klatt at Fox. Okay? To make sure that you don't go out there and say, well, that idiot Rob, I mean, I say enough dumb things. I wouldn't put Texas as my number one job in the country. Anyway, Southern Cal's at number 3. Ohio State is at number 4. Ohio State should be higher than that. They are the king of the Big Ten. They can recruit where they're at, and they own it. I mean, they completely own that region. They get whatever recruits they want, basically. They always have a top 10 recruiting class, I think is fair. And number 5 on the list is Georgia. I think Georgia is one of the better jobs in the country. Money's not an issue there. You have the capability to recruit right there in Georgia, which is a hotbed for college football. And you've also got Florida down where you can recruit down there. Brock says, if I wrote the list, I would have Clemson at number 1. No, Clemson would not be at number 1 because Clemson is in the middle of nowhere. You have to convince somebody to come there, and I think that makes it a tough job. Really do. Now, I know people, there's things in those hills. Nah, it doesn't, that's not the best selling point. Number 1 on my list would probably be Ohio State. I mean, I truly believe that. Number 2 on my list would probably be Oregon because of the money and the way that the community is involved with football up there. I think Oregon's kind of overlooked a little bit, but I definitely have them up there. Alabama would probably be 3. 4 would probably be Georgia as far as, the best place for a job. And number 5, I'd have to think about number 5. You'd want to look and say maybe a school like one of the Florida schools would be on the list simply because of the recruiting. But I don't know. We'll have to see on that. Let's go out to the phones, 803-978-1832. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Rob, I was listening to your top 5.
Yeah.
Oregon?
I like Oregon because they have Nike money behind them, and they run the Pac-12 up there. They're like Ohio State West, in my opinion, as far as the way that the setup that they have and the money and everything else.
Yeah, I just don't think it's that big of a draw. I don't think he's going to win big in Oregon.
Well, give him time up there. Coach Cristobal is a good coach. I mean, and they've been a solid program for a while now. It's not like Oregon, they won the Pac-12 last year. I mean, they're pretty a solid program across the board, and they're able to recruit that area and get lots of guys. Justin Flo went there, and he was a national prospect that had Clemson on his list and everybody else. I mean, they've got the ability to get some of those players out west.
Yeah, I'm glad that Clemson wound up with Trenton Simpson rather than Justin Flo.
I think the young man from Georgia, Carter, is going to be a great linebacker for the Tigers as well. He seems to be solid.
Do you think that the FSU coach is going to make it to the year?
That FSU program is a dumpster fire right now. I mean, you've seen the story where guys are proposing right after they lost to Jacksonville State.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. You want to hear the funny part about that? Jacksonville State, someone put this graphic out earlier, and I don't know if it's completely true or not. I've got to check it, but it's basically that the Jacksonville State recruiting budget is like $15,000 for the year. Their football budget is like $2 million for the year. Just think about that. Their entire program costs less to run than what they're paying Mike Norvell. And Mike Norvell had to write them a check to come down there and beat their butt on their own field. That program is disgustingly bad right now.
Yeah, I heard the Boston College coach mentioned for the USC job.
That wouldn't surprise me because Coach Hafley's been all over the place. He's coached in the NFL. He's coached with Ohio State. Would not surprise me in the least if he was in the mention for that. I think he would be outstanding wherever he goes. It's sad that they won't get to keep him at Boston College and he can bring that program back to where from being a 7-5 team to actually being really, really good, because I think he's a heck of a coach.
Okay. And can I get the spread for the what is your spread for the Georgia South Carolina game?
32 minus 32. That's what it opened up at. It might drift back to 29, 28, whatever, but I still think it's over 30 points.
You think it's over 30?
Yes, sir.
Is Luke Doty going to start, or?
I don't know. Shane Beamer's not really telling us anything. If they're saying that he's ready to play, but and to be honest, if I were Shane Beamer, that's what I would do. I wouldn't tell you what I was going to do. I'd make you plan for all of it.
All right. Thanks, man. Have a good day.
All right, bud. Appreciate it. 803-978-1832. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more for you in just a moment. This is The Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I agree, Caden. Fickle already said he's out.
We also do home windows, patio doors, tabletops, shower doors, mirrors, storefront, and decorative glass. Find us online at absoluteglassinc.com. And remember, if you can see through it, we can do it. Imagine a disease that can hurt any part of your body, like your joints, hearts, kidneys. Your immune system becomes so hyperactive that it attacks instead of protects. That's lupus. You don't look sick, so no.
I don't know, Alejandro, because I still think Michigan's just not very good. Brock, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I mean, if he's ready to go, then get him out there. I don't, if that's going to be your guy, then get him out there. I tell you what, it does say to me though, if I'm one of the backups that's in that room there, I'm thinking these guys have no faith in me as far as the coaching staff goes. If we're going to get a guy that was going to get us coffee, and that's going to be our starting quarterback, I don't have any faith in any of those guys. So, the Jason Browns of the world and Gauthier, I'm looking around. Wait a minute, the guy that was taking coffee orders a week ago is our starting quarterback. Yeah, I'm looking for the transfer portal. By the way, I think that Clemson's going to have some folks hit the transfer portal too. Lynn J. Dixon is acting like a child on Twitter right now. And if you check out the stuff that he said, he's going to be hitting the transfer portal before long. They don't know who the starter is, Alan. Brock, we were told that Brown has issues as far as he came in overweight. That's, if you're going to show up and not be in shape, they're not going to like it. Well, welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. College football's top 5 best jobs, according to Joel Klatt: Texas, Alabama, Southern Cal, Ohio State, Georgia. If you want to sound off on that, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. The big story with South Carolina fans, who's going to start at quarterback? Is it going to be Luke Doty this weekend against Georgia? Is it going to be It's going to be Zeb Nolan. We're getting up to the point, game 4 is the game where actually at the end of this week, because once you play in 4 games, technically your season is done. I think the big thing is that you have to look at it from this perspective with a lot of guys that there may be some transfer portal things that may be happening. I mentioned to the folks in the chat room, I thought Lynn J. Dixon, who's been saying a lot of creative things on Twitter here about how he's a team player, but no, he's not. And, the back and forth between him and Dabo Swinney, kind of interesting. He's currently in Coach Spiller's doghouse, according to Coach Swinney. All right, out to the phones we go. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon. Hello.
Hey, how's it going? I caught up before. This is Ballard Sports Media.
Hey,
how you doing?
What's going on, buddy? What do you have for the program?
Not much. I just wanted to talk and ask about what you thought about the I know it was the weekend before last, but when you look back at that Georgia Clemson game, it was 10-3. And with everything we hyped up about like JT Daniels and how he was going to be the answer for Georgia's offense and everything, then you hype up DJ. Did you see that game as more of these teams legitimately have defense or something just wasn't right on offense?
I think that Georgia defense is the best defense I've seen in probably 10 years. So I think as far as their ability to stop things at the line, I think they are just really, really good. Now, on the other hand, though, I don't think that DJ Uiagalelei has his stuff worked out yet, to be completely honest. I think he's still trying to find his way up there at Clemson. But the Clemson defense looked really good as well. Georgia didn't score an offensive touchdown, so they played their part. Now, the sad thing is that the Clemson defense is probably not going to be tested the rest of the season. There's not really a school on that schedule that you look at and you're like, they may test the Tigers with the offense that they have. I would have gone with Boston College, but their quarterback Dracovic has an injury and he may not be able to play. So after that, it's I don't think there's anyone on the schedule that really, until Clemson gets to the ACC championship game, where they might have to go up against the Sam Howell or even if they can. That's if it's Miami with De'Aaron King. I don't think there's another team that can really do much with that Clemson defense the rest of the way. All right.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, man. It was. Yeah, I'll say this real quick before I let you get on with other callers. Basically, what I saw from that game, I just think that Clemson has one of the worst offensive lines I have seen in a while, and it's probably one of the worst in college football. I was not very impressed with that, but at the same time, you give credit to Georgia's defense, which I think was a little underrated going into that game. But enjoy the show, man. Keep up the great work, and from a Bama fan, I'll say roll tide, man.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for calling the program. We appreciate it. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That's the number to call if you want to join us here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. As I said, Joel Klatt's top 5 college jobs: Texas, Alabama, Southern Cal, Ohio State, and Georgia. Mine were a little bit different than that. I went with Ohio State, Oregon, and then I had Georgia at number 3, and then we can argue about the rest if you really want to go that far. 803-978-1832. He talked a little bit about the Clemson offensive line. When you look at Clemson's offensive line, they don't really have guys that end up getting drafted and going on into the pros. Yeah, they had the young man from last season, but it's not like Clemson every year has just this dynamic offensive line. Now, the reason that their offense is so good is because they game plan away from it, meaning they're creative with their play calling. And the matchup, especially with Georgia, they were almost vanilla if you really stopped and looked at what they were doing. It's not taking anything away from the Georgia defense. Georgia made them be vanilla because they kept getting blown up at the line. So Coach Caldwell up there, they'll figure something out. But when you look at that Clemson line, it's not like they recruit the absolute stud on top of stud on the offensive line. They just don't. So I'm not saying they win with smoke and mirrors, but they win with the way that they are able to be creative with what they do and create isolation with certain players. And of course, having a dynamic quarterback, which they've had several, that really, really helps a lot. 803-978-1832. COVID-19 strikes again. Alcorn State did not have any athletic trainers to take care of its players because their part-time trainers recently tested positive for COVID-19. What does that mean? They couldn't practice yesterday. Crazy. One other note, Navy had one of their offensive assistants that refused to get his shot for the COVID vaccine, and they fired him. That's where we are with this stuff now. If you don't get your vaccine, it's, especially with certain things, you could choose not to have the vaccine, but we don't have to choose to employ you. That's kind of the way that it's working, especially when you're going to be working with young folks. And the possibility you could spread it to a football team and possibly have it where your team could be damaged on the football field. That's the way that the Naval Academy is looking at it. So we'll see how that goes. There is one coach, I think it's by October 18th, I think is the drop dead date in that state. I think it's the Washington coach that if he doesn't get his COVID vaccine, he will be fired. He will be fired. So there you go with that. COVID-19 still sprinkling in the college football world there. If you want to call up and talk about that, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you'd like to join us here for the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I know with my company, they said that if the stuff from President Biden passes, that they will expect all of us to have it or to be tested every week. So I went and got my vaccine. I had COVID. It sucked. I had it last July. It's terrible. We bought the house next door to my mother-in-law. She's an older lady. I don't want to possibly be giving her the COVID. So I mean, if you don't want to take the vaccine, that's on you, but understand you have the freedom to do that. But certain places have the freedom to not employ you. So there you go with that. I don't know the science on that, Chris. I don't want to make this show about COVID because that, but it is affecting the college football front there. What was it? The New Orleans Saints have what, 6 players or six coaches that their like entire offensive coaching staff has COVID-19 now. I don't know. I've never seen people get so angry over it though. I mean, the big thing is that people go and get vaccines for the mumps, measles, everything else. I don't understand the blowback behind it. Way to go Bucks. I don't like going down that road with people, but I don't understand why people wouldn't get the vaccine. If your doctor tells you that you can't, then that's fine. He tried to get the assistant from Navy tried to get a religious waiver. What the hell kind of waiver does Jesus give you a waiver that says don't get the vaccine? It's the worst thing I've ever heard of, man. I don't know. I am not the Illuminati there, macaroni monster. Sorry about that. Well, I don't like doing politics, but Trump mentioned, hey, get your vaccine. It's a good thing. And people booed him. He got booed off the stage. They're like yelling at boo. They're booing Trump about it. I don't know. What a mess. Dude, I can't dictate to you what you do with yourself anyway, so I don't know. I've never seen Trump get booed at a rally there, Lee. Just being honest. Just for you. There you go. That message just for you there, Mr. Troll Patrol. Welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. A Power 5 coach has been shown the door. Clay Helton was told to go away. Held a 22 games over 500. Just saying. You think about that. 22 games over 500. Uncle Lou with a... I have a Facebook medical degree and I make all my decisions based on memes. Thank you, Uncle Lou, for joining the program. Tony Elliott is considered one of the folks that may be taking over for the job at Southern Cal. I don't know if that's going to work out or not. Here's some of the other names that have been thrown out there. Tony Elliott, of course, the offensive coordinator at Clemson. Gary Patterson, the head coach at TCU. Mario Cristobal at Oregon. Urban Meyer from Jacksonville. What a mess that is down at Jacksonville right now. Here's a name that makes sense. Bill O'Brien at Alabama from the offensive coordinator there. Also, PJ Fleck, the Minnesota head coach. I wonder if he's just trying to do what he can to rock the boat and all that good stuff up there until it's time for him to move on. Matt Campbell at Iowa State. I don't know why he'd want to leave that program and go to Southern Cal, but his name is in the mix. Bob Stoops. He's too old. I think that's insane. Going with Bob Stoops is insane. Chris Peterson, the former Washington coach. James Franklin is at number 2 on this list, followed by Luke Fickell, the head coach at Cincinnati. Now, Fickell has already come out and said, yeah, I'm not trying to get into all that mess. And that's fine. But some of these other coaches, it kind of makes sense. I don't think that Bill O'Brien, his last thing was, hey, I want to be the offensive coordinator and work for Nick Saban. That's not like you wake up one day and say, you know what? I want to go work for Nick Saban, and that's going to be my final spot. I just don't think that's going to be the way that it is. Steve Sarkisian was battling a bottle at Southern Cal, lost his job because of it, went down there, got his career resurrected, and then boom, he's off and gone. So it's not like people just sit there and say, hey, I want to be just Nick Saban's offensive coordinator. I'm not buying all that too. Is James Franklin's where he wants to be at Penn State? Is that like your end-all be-all job? We shall see on that. And then Luke Fickell. Luke Fickell's at a job at Cincinnati where they've technically moved into a Power 5 conference now. He has the capability to go in and be just the guy. Does he want to do that? I don't know, man. Of all these names that are out there, the names that I like PJ Fleck. I like Bill O'Brien. And maybe Gary Patterson. But it's a different world coaching at TCU and going out to Southern California to coach. We'll see how that works out for them. Is Lane Kiffin done? Does he want to build Ole Miss? Or does he want to go to a more, not that he's going to go back to Southern Cal, but he's one of those coaches that you wonder if Ole Miss is his final spot, or is he going to try to get in the NFL? The coaching stuff is amazing to me. Eric says Lane might go back to Southern Cal. I don't think that's happening. I wonder sometimes, though, if Tennessee's kind of upset that they lost him. Steve says he thinks Urban leaves Jacksonville. Urban Meyer's catching a lot of grief because of the way that he's dealing with these pros. He's upset because he's losing games. And he's maybe thinking, you know what? I don't like the idea of us losing at all. When I was at Florida and at Ohio State, we didn't lose very many games, and the state pretty much shut down when we did. So maybe that's viable. He's 57 years old, though. Is that where you want to go? What's he going to give you? Maybe 8 more years? This is a guy who had health problems, had to leave the Florida job because of health problems. And let's make no mistake about it, too. He had a bunch of gangsters down there in Florida. We could talk about all the guys that should have been not playing and everything else. And I've given Georgia grief for giving guys second chances. Urban Meyer had people on his team that ended up killing people. And he just kind of, you notice how he kind of walked away from that scot-free? Hey, I'm having some heart issues. He takes off for a while, and then he goes to Ohio State, and nothing happened. Ta-da! People seem to forget that. He kind of left Florida kind of in a mess. But take some time off, and then hello, Ohio State. And maybe that's the way that he's going to leave Jacksonville. Which, by the way, that is, when you see some of the stuff that's happened in Jacksonville, that is probably one of the worst run franchises in the pros. I can't even buy the idea that Jacksonville deserves a franchise, to be completely honest with you. But they're there. And Urban Meyer's been given the keys. Will he leave now? I doubt it. Too much money, too. Way too much money. But I don't think he's in the camp of, hey, we can't lose preseason games. He's all about that. I want to win every game. Yeah, that's not the way it works in the pros. Another name that's in the mix is Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City. He was supposed to be in the mix to get hired at Colorado, which is his alma mater. I don't know what transpired there, but the offense at Kansas City is put together by him and Andy Reid. I wonder how much of it's actually him and how much of it is Andy Reid. Andy Reid's considered one of the best offensive minds in the pros. But Eric Bieniemy has been a guy that's under the tutelage of Andy Reid for a while now. Could he take that job? 803-978-1832. Go Bucks Online says, if your coach is clean, you suck. That's I shouldn't laugh at that, but he's halfway right. Working on a couple of guests for this week. We have in the mix. Let's see if this is, I just got an email from someone. Let's make sure that this isn't too far out there. We've got coming up tomorrow to preview the Georgia matchup. Actually, on Thursday, Chip Towers from the AJC will join us, and we will look at the stuff that's going on with Georgia, who's going to start for them at quarterback. We'll have all that in the mix for you tomorrow here on the Rundown. Also, we've got a gentleman on that's on the beat for Georgia Tech. We will get what's going on with the Yellow Jackets and a couple other little things as we roll along throughout the week. Don't forget, Friday we'll have all of our picks against the spread. Be sure to check out our show on Friday for that. All right, don't forget also Lawton Swan from Clemson Sports Talk is next. He is the czar of Clemson Sports. You can follow him on Twitter. He's at Clemson Sports. Very good show that he puts together every day. It does say on the marquee that it's Clemson Sports Talk, but a lot of people like Lawton Swan's show. Just saying.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
Follow me on Twitter. I'm at Rob Sounds Good. Podcast will be up at 5 o'clock today. And 23 hours from now, we'll be back at it again with the Rundown right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. It's looking like Florida State by now, guys. All right, guys. Appreciate y'all, man. We'll talk to you later on.